It's 6:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. This meeting is being held by Zoom, and you can also listen to it on live stream cable TV, Granicus, and YouTube. If you want to provide public comment, you can, according to the instructions that are on the page 2 of this agenda. And just a heads up to folks that staff keeps everybody on mute for the most part, and will unmute a speaker as it's their turn. So with that, we're going to go ahead and read the summary of hearing procedures. And so it goes. The procedure for the hearing is as follows. After the staff report, applicants and appellants may make a 5-minute presentation. The meeting technician will connect persons who desire to speak to the commission to the meeting so they can be heard. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Speakers using a translator will have 4 minutes. After public testimony, the applicant and appellant may make closing remarks for an additional 5 minutes. Planning commissioners may ask questions of the speakers, and responses to commissioner questions will not reduce the speaker's time allowance. The public hearing will then be closed, and the Planning Commission will take action on the item. The Planning Commission may request staff to respond to the public testimony, ask staff questions, and discuss the item. If you challenge these land use decisions in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. The Planning Commission's action on rezonings, pre-zonings, general plan amendments, and code amendments is only advisory to the City Council. The City Council will hold public hearings on these items. Section 20.120.400 of the Municipal Code provides the procedures for legal protests to the City Council on rezonings and pre-zonings. The Planning Commission's action on conditional use permits is appealable to the City Council in accordance with Section 20.100.220 of the Municipal Code. Agendas and all staff reports for this meeting may be accessed at, and then it has the link there, which I am not going to read because it is very, very long. So with that, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. And so I'm going to go through commissioner names and just respond with I if you're here. So Bonilla.
Aye.
Caballero.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Yesni.
Aye.
Oliverio. Commissioner Oliverio, I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Okay, great. Did other people hear him, or was it just me?
Barely, but
right.
Came through.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and proceed to the second item on the agenda, which is public comment. This is the portion of the agenda where folks from the public are welcome to comment on items that are not already on the agenda. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the screen here of attendees to see if anybody has indicated that they would like to make any comments under this agenda item, which is to say and comment on things that are not on the agenda. I'm not seeing anything, and I'll just check with staff to make sure that there's nobody that wants to speak under this item. And hearing nothing from staff, I will go ahead and move on. So the next item is deferrals and removals from calendar, and there are no items here, so we will go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. There are also no items here. So we're going to go ahead and go to the public hearing, item number 5. And we will start with 5A, and I'll ask staff to give a staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cassandra Vandersweet, Planning Project Manager. If I may share my screen. Thank you. And run current. can't seem to figure out how to get the PowerPoint to play, but I'll proceed this way, and hopefully everyone can see the slide in the center. Before Planning Commission this evening is a conditional use permit amendment, file number CPA 16-035-01 to amend the previously approved project file number CP 16035 for a gas station. This amendment would allow the addition of an automatic car wash, the reduction of the overall project square footage, and site improvements on an approximately 0.8 gross acre site. The project would be located at South Bascom Avenue on the southeast corner of South Bascom Avenue and Woodard Road. The project site has a 25-foot ingress-egress access along the rear of the site. And north of the site and east of the site are multifamily residential properties. Commercial uses are to the south and commercial office is to the west of the site. West of the site is also within the city of Campbell. Farnham Elementary School is located northeast of the site across Woodard Road, and the project site is approximately 200 feet from the edge of Farnham Elementary School. The school has a general plan land use designation of neighborhood community commercial, which supports a very broad range of commercial uses, and it has a CG commercial general zoning district, which permits drive-through uses with a conditional use permit. The site is currently developed with a gas station and a service station with 2 service bays. The original conditional use permit file CP 16-035 was for a convenience store with a 2nd-story office and an automated car wash. The CUP was approved by Planning Commission on August 9th, 2017 and appealed to City Council. The City Council denied the appeal and approved this conditional use permit with a revised project, which excluded the automated car wash for the following reasons. The City Council found the noise generated by the originally proposed car wash was inconsistent with the general plan and zoning code noise requirements and determined the car wash was located within 25 feet of residential uses, which would create a negative noise and visual impact and would conflict with the City Council drive-through policy 6-10. City Council's approval also included site design changes to eliminate the project's encroachment onto the private easement and reduce noise impacts to the eastern residential properties. The project before you, this conditional use permit amendment to allow the development of a smaller building on site, including a convenience store, small 2nd-story office, and an automated car wash with additional noise minimizing features. The car wash's hours of operation would be from 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. The car wash, or the gas station and convenience store hours of operation would continue to be from 5 a.m. to midnight as approved in the original conditional use permit. 21 parking spaces would be provided on site, and none of the parking spaces would encroach into that 25-foot easement along the rear of the building, or the rear of the site. The car wash would be located behind the convenience store. Vehicles would enter the car wash along the south side of the property and would exit along the north side of the property. Interior directional signage and a curved wall extending from the exit of the car wash would direct car wash users to utilize the South Bascom driveway to exit. Here's the curved wall. To reduce noise impacts to adjacent properties, the project includes a 33-foot long, 16-foot high curved wall, which would extend from the car wash exit and curve exiting vehicles towards South Bascom Avenue, again, along here. Additionally, the project also includes an 11-foot long, 12-foot high masonry wall along the car wash entrance. Both walls will be integrated into the design of the new building. Additionally, site improvements include a 7-foot high masonry wall along the eastern residential properties and the maintenance of the existing masonry wall along the commercial properties. And these both align with City Council's previous approval. Sorry. A community meeting was held on June 13, 2019, and approximately 25 community members attended. Some major concerns raised during the meeting and staff review included traffic, noise, and consistency with the city's drive-through policy. These have been addressed in the staff report, and since posting the draft resolution and staff report, additional comment letters have been provided, including 2 petitions with over 500 signatures and 2 videos. One is a hairdryer video referenced in staff's report, and the other is a video of neighborhood traffic. Several concerns raised in the petitions and letters were addressed previously in the staff report. However, staff would like to briefly address some of the points of the letters provided since the finalization of the staff report. Sorry, my script is not cooperating. One moment. The letter stated the staff report misrepresented the original conditional use permit's approval history. While staff acknowledges the staff report was a summary of the history, all facts presented in the staff report are accurate. Noise studies for the original project included noise analysis submitted by the applicant, prepared by Maywu Acoustics, and by the appellants, prepared by Illingworth and Rodkin, Inc. Letters have noted concerns with the exception to the location requirement in the city's drive-through policy for the car wash being within 200 feet of residential uses. Staff notes for the previous project, City Council had outlined concerns with the drive-through uses location and specifically identified noise and line of sight of the car wash to the residents as one major concern. The project before you continues to be within 200 feet of residences. However, as noted in the staff report, the project would comply with the applicable traffic provisions of the City Council policy in accordance with the permitted exception for car washes at existing gas stations. Also, the revised project design incorporates entrance and exit walls. The revised entrance and exit walls were found that the car wash would not have a general plan noise impact nor exceed the zoning code noise thresholds. Additionally, these walls would eliminate the line of sight view into the car wash. The letters noted issues with the car wash's exit and likelihood that it could cause internal site conflicts and would not preclude car wash users from using Woodard Road to exit. Staff notes the on-site circulation was analyzed by Public Works as well as planning staff for conformance with the municipal code standards and functionality. The curved wall, in addition to on-site signage, is intended to encourage exiting onto South Bascom. The council policy does not prohibit the use of other streets for ingress and egress, but requires primary ingress and egress to be from the 4-lane street, such as South Bascom. Therefore, staff finds this project in conformance with this provision. Concerns were also raised about stacking. 5 stacking spaces are identified on the site plan and 2 overflow spaces. Staff notes there is over 70 feet behind the last stacking space to accommodate a minimum of 3 overflow stacking spaces within the car wash site at a 20-foot length as prescribed by the council policy. Additionally, as noted in the traffic memo, any vehicle that would overflow from the stacking lane would spill out onto the west side of the gas station and not onto a public street or the gas pump's major aisles. Concerns have also been raised about the project's conformance with pedestrian access. The final site plan, which is attached to the staff report, shows the project's proposed painted pedestrian walkway. The walkway, although not direct, would provide pedestrian access to the site, which would help avoid pedestrians crossing the drive-through use. Concerns were raised about adequate on-site parking. Staff would like to confirm 21 parking spaces are provided on site. The space noted as a trailer space is not a dedicated parking space, but a location of a temporary use trailer approved under the original conditional use permit to be used during construction. Finally, the letters identified unaddressed issues with the existing conflicts with the Farnham Elementary School and traffic impacts to the area. As staff noted in the staff report, development projects are not penalized for the surrounding safety of roadways. The project's closure of one of the driveways on Woodford Road would enhance the area's safety and function. Finally, as described in the project's traffic memo and traffic report, the project is not anticipated to impede traffic on the surrounding streets. As analyzed in detail in the staff report and the project is consistent with the general plan land use designations of rules of the general plan. Additionally, the project was found to be consistent with the zoning district's commercial design guidelines, city council policies, including the city council policy 6-10 for drive-through uses. Therefore, staff recommends that Planning Commission consider the exemption in accordance with CEQA and adopt a resolution approving the conditional use permit amendment and direct staff to file a notice of the exemption. Planning, Public Works, and Environmental staff are available to answer any further questions. This concludes staff's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. And I wanted to ask, are folks having a hard time hearing Cassandra? Or is it just me?
Yes. Having a hard time.
Yep. So Cassandra, I'm
having a hard time as well.
Yeah, I'm not. Sometimes you're very clear, and sometimes it turns into like Darth Vader mode. And so I think maybe some tech issues on the speaker or something like that. Anyway, hopefully we can get that resolved before we call on you to answer some questions. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and ask the applicant to take 5 minutes to give their comments.
Tony?
Yes, hi.
Oh,
Can
you are
hear me?
unmuted. Go ahead.
All right. Do I have an audio and video? Just audio? Am I being heard?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you going to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm not getting a video prompt.
Just a second.
Okay.
Did you have a video you were going to present?
Okay, here we go. All right. No, I am not going to present a video. I'm just going to speak. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Tony Anderi, and I speak for the owners. This entitlement amendment is intended to enable the economic development of an infill commercial parcel of 35,000 square feet. Our efforts to develop that site was regretfully derailed the last time we tried. It goes without saying that redeveloping infills is a city council policy. The policy is intended to eliminate blight, discourage transient activity, improve the city's commercial tax base, bring modern and diverse conveniences to the communities being served. The city is an infill policy classic. The city's earliest record of this development dates back to 1963. However, the site is much older. The 1950s Humble Oil site features a tiny industrial steel building on 4% of the site. In 2013, we proposed rezoning the site for the explicit purpose of adding an automatic car wash. City Council, inclusive of then Council Member Donald Rocha, unanimously approved the proposal. In 2016, we submitted a redevelopment proposal for this car wash. The proposal increased the development's existing footprint from a meager 4% to a modest 14%. The proposal enlarged the existing mini-mart and, consistent with City Council Policy 610, replaced auto repair with an automatic car wash equipped with recycled water. The proposal included other green features such as photovoltaic solar electric. The use of recycled water reduces the community's demand for fresh water, resources, and captures and sequesters heavy metals, shedding vehicles to protect the San Francisco Bay. As intended by Council Policy 610, the proposed drive-through is an additional service to an existing drive-through. The new drive-through is an extension of the existing drive-through. All drive-throughs begin with a place to pay. Both drive-through services are paid for at the pump. Much like auto repair, car washes are organic gas stations, and the car wash stack naturally begins at the gas pump. This amendment will again re-enable the economic development of the site. Unfortunately, for decades, the site has received city services but underperformed its tax and economic potential for the city. The amendment raises the development footprint from its current 4% to a more modest 12% and modifies what the previous commission had approved as follows. The development is set forward toward Baskin by an additional 3 feet, and the car wash is set back from Woodard by an additional 10 feet. The overall development is further reduced by 500 square feet. The car wash exit is turned 90 degrees toward Baskin Avenue and away from Woodard Hill. Furthermore, the amendment includes a new study of the California Environmental Quality Act exemption. The study reaffirms the CEQA exemption granted by the previous commission. CEQA provides beyond reasonable doubt, with the highest standard of proof and law, that our proposal stands in full compliance with the laws of the state of California, as well as the rules and regulations of the city of San Jose and the county of Santa Clara. The amendment provides ample parking. By definition, parking is a shared space between pedestrians and cars. Internal crosswalks are not a parking lot requirement. Nevertheless, as part of this amendment, a crosswalk is provided from the back of the lot to the front of the lot. We respectfully ask the Commission to approve the overdue redevelopment of this infill site. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. At this point in time, I do not see any questions from my fellow commissioners, so I'm going to go over to see if there's anyone from the public who would like to speak. And it looks like there are a couple hands raised, so I'm going to let staff go ahead and name folks and unmute them.
Okay, and we actually have quite a few people who requested ahead. I'm going to start with Carl. Carl, please unmute yourself. You are unmuted. Please begin to speak.
Okay, I'm here.
Say, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually my apartment complex that's right there on video screen right now. It's going to be end up right next to the car wash, where it's going to be in this open area that they're showing now. There's a constant flow of the traffic and the children that go by, like you see now. And it'll be a lot worse when other projects are put in, like the North 40 and the Cambrian Plaza. A lot of the cars are exiting onto Woodard instead of Bascom. And my bedroom is backed right up to the where the car wash is going to be right there. And I work graveyard, so it's going to be very difficult to try to sleep with that thing going as many hours as it's going to go, as well as these smells and all the traffic noise it's going to be there. So I think the video kind of speaks for itself. Don't know how much more time I have left.
You have about 45 seconds left.
Okay, let's see. The traffic will get worse from what it is now.
Okay, sorry, I was wrong. It looks like the time is up here. Thank you, Carl. Next, we have Christian. Christian, if you could unmute yourself, you begin to speak. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking time to listen to our comments, honorable commissioners. We have petitions on file with over 750 signatures, including Councilmember Pam Foley, who signed our online petition opposing the car wash. The site plan maximizes congestion on the site. Bascom Avenue is not the preferred route for traffic to access and leave this property because of the unprotected bike lanes that were added narrow the right lane, and bike lanes run in front of Vandoyle's entrances and exits. When Bascom Avenue Complete Streets takes away a lane from each side of Bascom, Vandoyle's conditional use permit will no longer qualify for a car wash. The only reason it may or may not qualify now is because the drive-through use policy for car washes says it may or may not qualify. We already took this before the city council, and Vandoyle's permit was denied by a majority vote. This exemption was written in the 1970s and amended in the 1990s. It needs to be removed so that businesses like Vandoyle cannot keep bringing it back, wasting staff's time and the community's money and efforts to oppose such a dangerous project. The North 40 and Cambrian Park Plaza projects will add traffic to Woodard Road and Bascom Avenue, and both will be inundated with hundreds more cars per day. Vehicles in line waiting for a car wash will back up into the street, blocking the unprotected bike lanes during times of heavy customer purchase of the car washes. There are 16 fourplexes and 4 businesses in the strip mall. These 20 businesses will be adversely affected by the car wash if approved. Don't these businesses have the same right to operate without interference as Vandoyle does? And finally, it is not safe for the children or pedestrians because they have to walk and bike around the perimeter of Vandoyle to get to and from Farnham Elementary School and St. Francis Cabrini School every day. Thank you guys very much. I hope you oppose this permit.
Okay, sorry, Carl. I have an email here that says Kathleen is with you. Do you have Kathleen on the line to speak?
Yes, she's right here.
Okay, if you could hand the phone over to Kathleen so she can speak.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, Kathleen.
Hi, thank you very much for listening to our comments. I got involved in this because of the children. I see them every day running unsupervised. Their parents are trying to handle multiple children. And as Christian mentioned, the children walk and bike the entire perimeter of Vandoyle's property. Now we have new bike lanes that are unprotected, and the children will have to bicycle on these bike lanes, unprotected bike lanes, over entrances and exits. And when you have a car with slippery tires coming out of a car wash, their braking distance is very short. And these children oftentimes ride on the sidewalk as well, and they push other children and adults out into the street. And as you can see by all those cars that are coming down the street, we've seen enormous times near misses of kids getting killed. I'm telling you that if you vote for this, not maybe, not if one of these children is going to get hit and killed. And we've got this unprotected bike lanes running straight across these driveways. And I don't see how that in any way is a policy that should be ignored. It's not even addressed. My complex is the same complex as Carl's, and my bedroom window is right near that, where that car wash will be. That X is for the car wash is where the children run and bike as well. So we can have all the policies in the world, but this is an outdated, dangerous policy that needs to stop and be corrected. And we made that effort, but it was kicked off another year. Yes, I have a minute 48.
No, sorry, that's we're having some technical difficulties on that there. The time is actually up.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you. For your comment. Next, we have Teresa. Teresa, please unmute yourself and speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Teresa Lands. I live across the street of Woodard, across from the gas station. I've lived here over 17 years now. I have a balcony view of all the traffic and all the accidents that come in and out of the gas station, all the kids walking to and from school. I have personally witnessed just countless near accidents, actual accidents. There's always, no matter how many walls you put up, no matter how many signs you put up directing people to exit onto Bascom, the real world fact is that people can and do and always will use the exits on Woodard. They cause so many accidents, people entering and exiting from the Woodard driveways. That will only get exponentially worse as you add a car wash in there. Mr. Andary has been attempting to, he's been attempting to do this for so many years now, and he says, oh, we're trying to hold him back. We are all in favor of more business and going ahead with his plans. However, the only objection we have is to the car wash, and he has delayed his own development for years, just in the hope of including that car wash, waiting for council members to change over so that hopefully someday we'll overturn this and give him the exception, but this just wastes the time, money, and resources, the council, the city, the residents, and poses dangers and disruptions to everyone in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dan. Dan, go ahead and unmute yourself.
With you, Dan Smith, 5311 Lowry Road, Union City, California. This is why adding the car wash is too much use on too small and too constrained a site. The car wash fails 78% short of meeting Council Policy 610 for drive-through uses for distance from residential property. Council Policy 610 requires 10 spaces, 5 regular and 5 reserved spaces for car wash queues when the queue is aimed at the primary street. The site plan, which only provides 6 or 7, depending on the version, according to the staff analysis. The applicant claims spaces at the fuel islands are reserved spaces, but they have no relation to the car wash queue. 610 requires access and egress primarily from a 4 or more lane street. The right turn in, right turn out limitations on Bascom lead to substantial reliance on Woodard for entry and exit. Exit to Bascom is ineffective because of the obstruction of the exit to Bascom, which is within 1 car length of the intersection limits of the Woodard Road intersection. 610 states, and I quote, drive-through uses at or near signalized intersections compound existing traffic congestion and make it intolerable,
15-second mark.
even if the intersection meets the LOS policy. The complex interaction with traffic control at school assembly and dismissal periods at Farnham Elementary School has not been analyzed and not been addressed.
Dan, your time is up. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking. Next, we have Apashna. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, is everyone able to hear?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Upashna Singh. I'm opposed to the car wash for several reasons. First, I believe it is not necessary for any renovations to be built, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Since this all started, I've been noticing an increase of criminal activities around the neighborhood. Not to mention, many homeless people have been roaming around the area, and unreported accidents have escalated. Without the help from the police, because they are short-staffed, I believe the renovations will attract new crimes and other negativities to a peaceful neighborhood with an elementary school right near the site. These law offenders could use the wall as a hideout or home for an extensive amount of time. Secondly, I believe that a car wash in a store is not mandatory since there are car washes and convenience stores already located near the area within a mile or two. Lastly, since I reside in the neighborhood for a great amount of years, I know the actions that many pedestrians, drivers, and school children do. Having the car wash will definitely endanger them. With me being a witness as many drivers use Woodard Road to exit the site, I have no doubt that drivers will do the same exact thing in order to get out of the site immediately, no matter how many signs will direct them to use the correct driveway. Also, the fact that there are unprotected bike lanes added to Bascom Avenue, it makes the situation even worse since we do have careless drivers in that area already. So please consider our words, for most of us are opposed to the car wash. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Awashi. You please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to start by thanking everybody who's listening for listening to public comment. So I'm going to go ahead. The car wash complex will be much less than 100 feet away from several residential facilities. So in my opinion, and based off of the previous sound reports, no amount of masonry walls, barriers, or soundproof devices will alleviate the noise that will travel to these homes, disturbing their well-being and living environment. To add to the uncomfortable levels of noise and being added to these people's lives, there are risks of odor, chemicals, and gases being distributed as well. This is a big issue for those with underlying health concerns, especially considering the national pandemic we have, where airborne dust and debris from both construction of the site and the actual operation of the drive-through will indeed cause flare-ups in the community's health issues. In addition to this, a huge factor to why a majority of the community stands against this development is the danger that the washed cars pose on pedestrians, and specifically, as you've heard from already so many community members, is specifically, but not limited to, the school children coming and leaving from Farnham Elementary School. Children and their parents walk past each and every driveway, all four of them. So it just makes the whole site a danger zone to have cars with wet wheels, slippery pavements, and drivers who have a lack of awareness of their surroundings roaming around this area. So I just wanted to oppose this car wash, as many of us have done before. Living here is a lot different, and seeing that this is the stuff that goes on is a lot harder. So I hope everybody hears, the community and opposes this car wash. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Yuma. Hi, Yuma, you're the next speaker. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Uma, and I own one of the 4 businesses in the strip mall adjacent to the site. I came here to express some concerns I have with the car wash renovations. The convenience store and pump constructions does not concern me at all. However, the car wash proposal is sure to hamper all 4 of the strip mall's businesses. This is because the project proposes that the 5-car lane to this car wash will enter on South Bascom Road, specifically on our shared driveway. Because our strip mall's parking lot is just on the other side of where the line is proposed to be, the line will completely block our parking lot, hindering all potential customers from coming to any of our businesses. There will be no way for cars to get into our lot. As a taxpayer and a business owner, I believe it is my and my colleagues' right to have our business free of any obstacles. I also don't think it is a great idea to have a large wall or the 2-story building in this area because of the crime. Ever since the pandemic has begun, we have already seen an uprising in crime in this area. So it makes little sense to build structures here that make easy hiding spots for fleeing criminals, considering the lack of law enforcement in this area. I myself had experience with my security cameras stolen multiple times. If you'd like to see that footage as well. For the safety of the community and the security of our businesses, please disapprove of this car wash. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, we have Ashleen. You are our next speaker. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ashleen Sandhu. I oppose this car wash. The location of the proposed car wash falls directly in the intersection of South Bascom Avenue and Woodard Road, which have unprotected bike lanes across all the driveways, including those for the strip mall and the 2 driveways for Andoil gas station. Currently, traffic from the main road usually darts into the shared entrance of the strip mall or the second entrance near the stoplights from South Bascom Avenue, cross over unprotected bike lanes and into the Andoil gas station. This car wash will only add more traffic, and a line of cars will stack and spill onto South Bascom Avenue, which is an already very busy main road, backing up and blocking the entrance into the strip mall, an entrance that is shared with 4 businesses. Furthermore, there will already be an increase in traffic for cars turning right on South Bascom Avenue onto Woodard Road with the Cambrian Park Plaza project. Ask any nearby residents. At least once or twice a month, accidents occur at this location and are underreported because the police are not called, since we don't have enough officers to handle minor accidents, and more accidents will continue to occur with the addition of a car wash. If the commissioners would view this area, especially the intersection of South Bascom Avenue and Woodard Road, they will certainly acknowledge the increased dangers and bottleneck that will result for drivers, pedestrians, and local residents. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time.
Thank you, Ashleen. Next, we have Madia. Sorry if I'm pronouncing everything wrong. Please unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. My name is Madiha, and I would like to echo all the concerns that have been brought up by people who spoke before me. I've also prepared a short statement that I would like to read off. So people are always in a rush to get to their destination, and Farham Elementary School is nearly 200 feet away from the proposed car wash. And this poses an immense hazard to the children and pedestrians who walk across the driveways where the cars from the car wash will be exiting. The drivers will have pedestrians, including children, in their blind spot, putting them in danger of being hit and injured or even killed by a car at a heavily trafficked intersection on South Bascom Avenue and Woodard Road. Furthermore, at this car wash, the traffic noise and congestion, the car exhaust, the likely hit and run cases, pollution, the industrial waste are all factors that will lead to a disintegration of quality of life for neighboring residents. These foreseeable events and the impact to the community have already been highly stressed by the numerous parents, children, and residents. So what else does it take before the proper actions are taken to realize this car wash is not in the right location to be built, as the cons outweigh the benefits for people living in the near vicinity? And thank you so much for your time and letting me speak.
Thank you. Next, Ganeet, you are unmuted. Please begin to speak.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ganeet, and I find this construction of yet another car wash unnecessary, as there are already 4 car washes within the 2-mile radius, both north and south of this proposed car wash location on South Bascom Avenue. There is a car wash station called Classic Car Wash that is 1 mile from the proposed location, and a Chevron car wash that is located less than 2 miles away. Additionally, there is another car wash located about 1.5 miles north called Alvarado Coin Op Car Wash, and 2 additional car washes just a bit over 3 miles north. Therefore, is a car wash really necessary every mile on the same street? There are 5 car washes for the nearby community, and how many more do we really need? I urge the commissioners to consider the essential needs of the community in their decision, and this car wash
Ganeet, are you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. I think it cut off a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for your comment. Next, Shivani, you are our next speaker. Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Shivani. I just wanted to express my opposition of this car wash. I live in a neighborhood behind the site, and I think this car wash is very problematic because of the pedestrians and unprotected bike lane users, which should be a big deal because the city is already looking into their safety. Thank you so much for hearing the community out, and that'll be it.
Thank you. Next is, let's see, Lolita. You are unmuted. Please begin to speak.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Lolita Havea. I completely and utterly oppose this car wash. I cannot stress, like many of the panel and the community before me, how uncomfortable this car wash makes me when thinking about the children who cross these driveways every single day. I live across the street from the site on Stratford Drive, a few houses down. I see parents and their children walking across all 4 driveways. So no matter where the car wash exits or enters through, it's completely unsafe for those bikers and pedestrians. And basically, this is why I oppose the car wash, along with a lot of other things that people have said before. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for listening to the community.
Thank you. Next, we have Karanvir. You are unmuted. Please begin to speak.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for taking their time to listen to my comments. My name is Karanvir. The construction of the car wash is located directly in front of multiple apartment housing complexes and adjacent to 4 businesses in the adjacent strip. The noise of the car wash can be extremely loud, and having the car wash running throughout the day will create a bunch of problems for all of the fellow residents living within the range of the car wash, and for all the customers who will enter the 4 businesses. The proposal of a sound wall doesn't sound like it would like deafen any of the sound. In fact, it might amplify by bouncing between the wall and the apartments of the car wash. Also, the traffic noises of the cars honking and coming in through the car wash will increase, and hope that none of the pedestrians will get injured or have any accidents down the line. The car wash is going to be within 200 feet of the nearby Farnham Elementary School, and people coming in and out of South Bascom, which is already a busy main road. Even if the sound would be reduced a bit, it doesn't eliminate the noise that will increase once the site is up. And construction development during COVID-19 would propose unhealthy issues for people, especially with all the fumes and chemicals coming from the car wash. I think that due to all the nuisances it presents and the safety and health of children, pedestrians, and residents, I don't think that a car wash is necessary. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, we have Navjot. Please unmute yourself. You are next.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen, and good evening. My name is Navjot, and in my opinion, the car wash isn't in an ideal location, as we all saw in the video. So, as the area of South Bascom and Woodard has heavy traffic most of the day, and especially when school starts and ends at Farnham Elementary, I think traffic is going to get worse, and it's a big risk for the kids with all the cars driving by, and all the residents with noise pollution. And this has also been taken up before, and has been opposed, but I don't know why we keep bringing it up. So as there's a bunch of safety hazards. That's all.
Thank you. Next, we have Amneet. Amneet, please unmute yourself.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, so first of all, thank you everybody for listening, and good evening. My name is Amneet, and I oppose the car wash. I don't think that building a car wash at this intersection is a good idea. My little brother and his friends often ride their bikes in the evenings, and they ride around the area of South Bascom Avenue and Woodard Road. I just think that with the increase in traffic so close to a residential area would be unsafe for children and residents. The location of the car wash and all the nuisances will bring to the community should be a strong indicator to deny it from being built. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next is James. James, you are unmuted. Please begin to speak. James, if you could unmute yourself. Looks like his call dropped. Okay, next we have Sabui. You are unmuted. Please begin to speak.
Yes. My name is Sabuhi Siddiq, and I live in District 9, and I have a couple of friends who live in the neighborhood opposite to the school on Woodard, and I have gone there several times, and I have also come to know that at the corner of Bascom and Woodard, there will be a car wash. I oppose the car wash because I have been there when the school is open in the morning as well as in the afternoon when it closes, and how much busy it is with small children running around. And also, I have noticed that the uh, drivers speed on Woodard, and instead of making right turn to the South Bascom and making a U-turn, if they would want to go the other way, they just cross the yellow solid line and make a left turn. And I oppose this car wash because it will bring more accidents, and it is dangerous, especially with the children walking and running around and going to school. Also with the bike lane, which is not protected. That's another concern that I have. And the noise also, the neighbors have a feeling that, it will become busy. Plus also on the other end of Woodard and Union, there are a couple of car washes on that side. So thank you for giving me time. I oppose the automatic car wash.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Sergey. Please unmute yourself and go ahead. I'm sorry, it doesn't look like it's coming through. We can't hear you.
I think that was Charlie Brown's teacher.
Sorry. Let me come back to you. Next we have Jeanette. Jeanette, if you could go ahead and unmute yourself. Jeanette?
Can you hear me?
Hello? Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I'm sorry, it was under my wife's name. My name is Ben Levinson. I'm a real estate attorney, and I'm helping two of the tenants who live adjacent to the property, Kathleen Flynn and Carl Schroeder. They and I are asking you, planning commissioners, to deny the conditional use permit amendment and to not allow this automatic car wash on the site. First and foremost, the site is much too small for a car wash because it's too close to the residential properties that sit behind it. City Council Policy 6-10 has a 200-foot setback requirement before adding a car wash to a site near residences. You can get discretionary approval of waiving that depending upon the circumstances. It's undisputed that this car wash will be only 25 feet from the property line and 47 feet from the residential fourplex directly behind it. So in order to approve the car wash here, you commissioners have to waive 75% of the 200-foot setback, which is not good policy. In opposition to this, I retained Dan Smith. He spoke previously, and I would ask you to look at the two letters submitted to the public comments. One is on page 266, beginning there, and the other one is in this later packet on pages 6 through 13. I want to point out that this is the second attempt to add the car wash at the site. In 2017, this was previously granted by the planning commissioners, and the city council ultimately disapproved of the car wash at that time. Don Rocha, who was the city council member for this district, wrote a memo on January 19th, 2018. It's at pages 52 through 55 of your public comments, setting forth why a car wash is not good policy. Please take a look at that because it's very important to talk about the 75% waiver. People have already talked about Farnham being so close by. There's 750 people that have signed a petition against this. And so there's, with Carl Schroeder's video as well, you can see the traffic, and I would ask that this car wash be denied. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to double check. Did Jeanette want to speak too?
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. It was just on her name, the account.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Okay, Sergey, I'm going to try one more time. If you could unmute yourself. Okay, it doesn't appear to be working. That concludes our speakers.
Great, thank you so much. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and invite the applicant back up for another 5 minutes.
Yes, hi. First of all, I want to set the record straight about a couple of inaccurate comments that were made. The closest point that this car wash comes to a residence is 7 feet, and it's actually 75 feet from all the residences, except at one point where it comes close to 7. Please check the plan for what was said about that. Second thing I want to get out of the way is that Council Member Foley has not declared the position vis-a-vis this project one way or another, unlike it. Our effort to develop this corner was derailed a couple of years ago by an opposition sponsored by competing commercial interests intent on preventing an economically viable improvement. The well-funded opposition publicly stated to have spent tens of thousands of dollars to foil this development. An individual representing the public face of this opposition claimed to have spent these precious personal funds as a largesse of her public philanthropy. For those of you who believe that story, I have a bridge in Brooklyn I would like to sell to you. The money expended for the purpose of settling of this improvement is purely mercantile. It is guided by commercial motives, nothing more and nothing less. 2 years ago, the opposition wrongfully claimed that our drive-through site did not qualify for the proposed drive-through use. Their argument did not hold water back then, but through agitation tactics, political patronage, and parliamentary maneuvering, they managed to frustrate our attempt to improve this corner. The improvement was dismembered out of its economic viability and was left for dead. On March 5th of 2019, the opposition attempted to codify its boundaries by circulating a city council memo to amend council policy 610. This opposition wanted to codify a ban on additional drive-through services in an existing business that has been and will always be a drive-through service. They, of course, failed when current council declined to consider their memo. Hence, this amendment to reinstate a necessary economical component rightfully approved by the previous commission. This amendment addresses in good faith every tortured complaint raised by this opposition. Unfortunately, no amount of good faith or goodwill will satisfy this opposition. The CEQA study furnished by a city-managed consultant offers solid proof that claims of traffic and noise raised by this opposition are defunct. The school's 15-minute afternoon rush hour traffic never amounted to prove that our proposal produces significant traffic as this opposition wants for you to believe. Our small development on a major thoroughfare like South Bascom does not lose its right to exist because a school existed on Woodard Road, as the opposition wishes for you to accept. The textual and video record of the last 4 years is rife with compelling evidence that the only improvement this opposition will accept is no improvement at all. This opposition believes that it can heckle and harass its way into getting what it desires. Land ownership is the foundation not only of prosperity, but of freedom itself. The right to lawful land uses is a right protected by law. Your approval would be correct today as it was correct 3 years ago. The opposition's arguments before this body did not hold water back then, just as it does not hold water today. Please reaffirm your position that right should be allowed to make money. Please approve the overdue and lawful development of this infill. Your approval will again enable the economic revitalization of this corner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. At this point, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Is there a motion to do that?
Motion, we close the public hearing.
And a second?
Second.
All right. And is anyone opposed to that? Hearing none, I'm going to say that it passes. So I'm going to ask if staff would like to respond to the comments and also the applicant's comment.
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm trying to with my phone, so hopefully the audio will be better now. First, I wanted to acknowledge the setback mentioned both by the applicant and during public testimony. Per the site plan, the edge of the car wash tunnel wall will be approximately 44 feet from the residential property line. Next, I wanted to bring up, there were concerns regarding safety that were brought up. A condition of the project approval will be for the applicant to implement their operation plan, which includes video surveillance, lighting, training for their staff. And so this should help alleviate some of the crime concerns, as there'll be more eyes on that part of the street with this business in operation. Lastly, there was a comment about the two-story height of the car wash. This two-story height was also approved in the CP 16035 original conditional use permit, and there are several two-story structures surrounding the site. Next, I'd like to turn it over to our traffic team to speak to safety and traffic concerns. Manjeet?
Hi, this is Manjeet Benwait from the Department of Public Works. So I just wanted to speak to some of the concerns in regards to wet wheels, accident data, and also vehicular counts. So in response to the wet wheels and the concern of a slip hazard as a safety concern, there's enough distance between the exit of the car wash to the sidewalk to prohibit there being a slip hazard. Slip hazards are generally deemed a hazard if there is actual ponding within the sidewalk per our typical practice. And so if the water doesn't dissipate, then there really is a slip hazard. But from wet wheels, we don't anticipate there being a slip hazard. And also there just isn't enough, we don't have an expectation that vehicles will be traveling at a high enough speed from the exit of the car wash to the sidewalk to pose a hazard. In terms of accident data, we did review collision data from the past 5 years from our databases. And the collision data has shown there were 6 collisions related to speeding and red light violations at Bascom and Woodard. Per DOT best practice methods, 3 or more collisions per year warrant DOT to analyze improvements to a signalized intersection for both short-term and long-term safety. The intersection does not currently meet that criteria. However, the city did install interim unprotected bike lanes that were mentioned to help induce slower vehicular speeds in the short term. In the long term, the city, in coordination with VTA, have completed a Bascom Complete Streets corridor plan line to reduce Bascom from 6 lanes to 4 lanes with protected bike lanes. And so we're planning on installing those protected bike lanes with DOT's pavement maintenance program, but currently there is no budget for it, but we're hoping that maybe there will be some funding available to implement the plan line within 2021. And then lastly, we did conduct volume counts as part of the project along Woodard Road in October between South Bascom Avenue and Nova Scotia. And we found that the average daily traffic is around 3,700 vehicles. Minor arterials like Woodard can carry up to 7,500 vehicles per day. So the volumes are still well within the range. Thank you.
And if I may also turn it to our environmental team to speak on the noise issues brought up and odor concerns.
Hi, my name is Kara Hawkins, and I'm the environmental project manager for this project. As Cassandra said, I'll briefly touch on the concerns in regards to odor and noise. So for odor, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, or BACMD, includes recommendations on what is considered a significant source of odor under CEQA. Uses typically associated with odors include wastewater treatment facilities, landfills, chemical manufacturing, coffee roasters, food processing, and animal feedlots. The ability to detect odors varies considerably among the population and is overall quite subjective. For that reason, the list of uses recommended by BACMD is used to determine if a project could be a significant source of odor. Car washes are not typically regarded as significant sources of odor under CEQA and BACMD guidelines, and therefore is not considered significant. For the noise measurements for the project were taken and modeled both under DBA DNL, which is the noise descriptor used by the city under CEQA for day-night average, and as well as in DBA alone, which is the descriptor used by the city for development standards in the municipal code. Project operation was estimated to generate noise levels between 42 and 51 dBA DNL at the closest sensitive receptors to the east, which is below General Plan Policy EC-1.3's threshold of 55 dBA DNL at the property line. Noise levels using the descriptor of dBA alone were found to be a maximum of 53.7 at those same sensitive receptor property lines on the east, which is also under the municipal code's development standards of 55 dBA. Therefore, the project would not conflict with the CEQA thresholds found in the general plan or development standards found in the municipal code. Thank you.
And just to wrap up, I did want to note also regarding the odor, the car wash use has a mechanical room, so most of the use would either be within the car wash tunnel itself, or if there were any mechanical equipment, it's an enclosed mechanical equipment room. That's all we're available for questions.
Great, thank you so much. At this point, I will look to my fellow commissioners to see if they have any questions of staff or if anyone wants to make a motion. Looks like it's a chatty group. Aha, Commissioner Yasny.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move the staff recommendation.
There's a motion to move the staff recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
A second, so a motion by Commissioner Yasny to move the staff recommendation, a second by Commissioner Bonilla. At this point, are there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Yasny, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, Madam Chair. I think the staff report is very clear in regard to all of the issues that have been raised tonight.
And Commissioner Bonilla, would you like to speak to your second?
No, I'll pass. Thank you.
All right. I am not seeing any other hands at this point from my fellow commissioners, so we'll go ahead and take a vote by roll call. So we will go with Commissioner Bonilla.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero.
No.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Yasny.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ballard, myself, Chair Ballard, I am a yes. So motion passes. Thank you so much to all the folks who tuned in to offer their comments, and thank you to staff for the thorough presentations and vetting of this project. With that, we will go on to the next agenda item. And let me go back to the agenda here. So item 5B, and I will go ahead and turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is John Tu, and I'm the Supervising Planner with Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement for this project. File number PDC 17035 is for plan development rezoning to rezone the subject site from the APD Plan Development Zoning District to the RMPD Plan Development Zoning District, to allow up to 85 multifamily residential apartment units on an approximate 0.91 gross acre site. A conceptual plan has been provided as part of this application. When a PD permit has been implemented, the provisions of the permit prevail over the regulations of the base zoning district. Currently, there are no development permits currently on file. The plan and design for the development under this PD zones will be reviewed at the time of submission of a PD permit application. The site is immediately adjacent to the South Dianza Urban Village, and the existing neighborhood is a mix of residential and commercial uses. Residential is a predominant use on Bark Lane, which is where the site fronts onto. As Bark Lane and South Dianza Boulevard intersects, commercial uses are more prevalent. The project site has an envisioned San Jose 2040 general plan land use designation of urban residential on the land use transportation diagram. This designation allows for medium density residential and a fairly broad range of commercial uses, including retail, offices, hospitals, and private community gathering spaces in areas where cities close proximity to an urban village. The general plan allows up to 95 dwelling units per acre. The conceptual plan includes a design for 85 units at a density of 93.4 dwelling units per acre, which is consistent with the allowed density of the designation. The current zoning district is approved file number PDC 06-005, a planned development zoning district which allows up to 45 units. The rezoning would help buffer commercial uses along South Dianza Boulevard and the adjacent residential uses. The existing planned development zone district allows up to a 10-foot east side setback. Project rezoning would allow for a building setback of 27 feet at the third floor and 40 feet at the fifth floor, maintaining the 10-foot setback on the east side of the ground level. This would increase the east setback and interface of the third floor and to the adjacent multifamily residential uses. The PD zoning would allow building up to 75 feet. The height is pushed towards the west end of the project towards commercial uses on South Dianza Boulevard and away from the residential uses to the east. There was a community meeting held on August 6, 2018 at the Chinese Performing Arts of America. The city of Cupertino was notified, and there were approximately 50 community members in attendance. Additionally, multiple letters were received from members of the public. Many of the comments were echoed from the community meeting. In summary, the public comments included concerns about traffic and parking, particularly on Bark Lane, pedestrian safety, frontage improvements, building mass in a residential neighborhood was expressed as an area of concern, and also concerns regarding a decline in the quality of life. As previously identified, the project is for rezoning only. The plan and design for the development under this PD zone will be reviewed at the time of submission of a PD permit application. However, at the community meeting, the conceptual project presented by the applicant was redesigned to push the height of the building towards the Dianza Boulevard and away from the residential neighborhood to the east, and the draft development reflects those requirements. The conceptual plan would meet the city's parking requirement. In the traffic report, it was determined that all signalized intersections were studied, would continue to operate at an acceptable level of service during the AM and PM peak hours of traffic with the project. It is anticipated that the conceptual development project would add trips on Dianza Boulevard, and a fair share of $10,000 would be needed to pay towards an adaptive signal on Dianza Boulevard. Additionally, anticipated condition including red curbs of the project driveway, bulb out and wheelchair ramps, and sidewalk improvements would be included. As the PD zoning conforms to the general plan and other applicable policies, staff recommends the approval of Bark Lane plan development rezoning and the recommendation of approval of the mitigating negative declaration and approve the plan development permit as and approve the project as described. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, John. So at this point, wanted to welcome the applicant to give 5 minutes of an overview. And is staff going ahead and unmuting the applicant?
Sorry, yes, I have Daniel Sell unmuted. Daniel?
To computer. Oh, there it is. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. This is Daniel Sell representing Jason Lee, the owner of the property. We have a presentation that we can pull up here. Okay, there we go. So this is for PD rezoning of a property at 0.9 acre site on Park Lane near the intersection of De Anza, just north of the 85 freeway. Here you can see the site. So it's basically in the area of other apartment buildings. There's apartment buildings to the north, to the south, to the east, and then there's a vacant lot to the west towards De Anza. I believe there's a proposed hotel to be located on that site. There's some photos of the existing neighborhood looking across Park Lane and Wyburn Street. Additional photos showing there's a gas station on the corner of Park Lane and De Anza and the vacant lot. And then our project, the top photo is on the right side. Some additional photos. The bottom photos show the existing buildings on the site, which is an apartment building, basically two-story apartment buildings. So we're looking at 85 units on the site, which, as John mentioned, is about 0.94 units per acre. We're providing 170 parking spaces in 2 underground levels, which provides a parking ratio of about 2.2 units, or parking ratio of 2.2. Next. This is the typical first floor plan. Project consists of townhouses on the first and second floor, and then 4 stories of flats above that. For basically a 6-story building. There's a small 7-story addition on the west side of the project that contains 3 units. Here's the 2 levels of underground parking. The garage entrance is on the lower right side. And then on the, as I said, the townhomes are on the first and second floor, and then above that we've got flats. And these are basically for families. They're 3-bedroom, large units, for families, and then a large interior area, open to the sky, a courtyard on the center for amenity space. Some of our typical floor plans. And so this shows basically the view. The left side is the west side, adjacent to the proposed hotel site, and the far right side is on the east side, adjacent to the, there, yeah. So there you can see that's the east side, adjacent to the existing apartment buildings. And so we set back the existing east side of the building to reflect the existing character of the neighborhood there. Here's a better view of that. So that's the east side where the existing apartment building is. We basically tiered that, creating a series of setbacks. And then on the west side, as you can see, we have a small section of the 7th floor there where the building projects up a little bit to, and I think it almost matches the height of the proposed hotel there. Those are the 2 end elevations. The one on the left is the east elevation facing the existing apartment building, and then the one on the right is the west elevation facing the proposed hotel. Here's a section showing our 2 underground levels of parking are basically 6 stories of units and then interior open space. There's another view, basically, again, showing the setbacks that we came up with, working with the neighbors, working with city staff and the councilperson's office to carve out that area to more reflect the adjacent residential apartment buildings. That's it. So thank you for your time. We hope you can approve this project tonight, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. At this point, we will go ahead and see if there are any folks in the community who would like to ask any questions or provide any comment. So staff, if that's the case, you want to go ahead and run through public comment?
Sure. First, we have Clarence. Clarence, you're up. Please unmute yourself. Clarence, if you could unmute yourself. Okay, I'll go back to you, Clarence. Next, we have Steve. Steve, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to listen to my comments. I reside on Bark Lane near the proposed development site. I'd like to object to the proposed zoning changes and development for the following reasons. Number one, several of the proposed variances to the current zoning severely affect the character of the neighborhood. Bark Lane is a narrow, quiet residential street and really doesn't look anything like the front of the new proposed building. All houses and buildings are older with large yards and mature landscaping. Residential density is relatively low. Existing apartments have many fewer units and much more exposed green space. The proposed apartment complex is vastly different. Number two, the proposed zoning changes cut the setbacks front and back by half. This proposal and zoning changes also allow a 60% increase in the height of the structure. What this effectively allows is the construction of the largest cube that can possibly fit on that plot of land. Again, this is severely out of character for the neighborhood. Three, I think I heard, I had to modify this a little bit. I think I heard you say there was 2.2 parking spaces per unit. That's probably better than the 1.7 that I read, but if there's not enough parking, parking on Bark Lane is already extremely tight. It's just going to get worse. A few additional issues. The increase in the apartment density from the current low level to 85 on site on the new proposal will have a huge negative impact on crowding in the neighborhood. And like I said, it's a narrow street. There's not much room, but there's a lot of kids that like to play there. It's just going to get worse, and the traffic will have a negative impact on that as well. The proposed apartments are much larger than the existing surrounding apartments and will necessarily be much more expensive. Neighboring apartments are relatively affordable for that area. However, the expensive new complex will most probably cause an increase in rents in the surrounding apartment complexes. The proposal will continue the elimination of affordable housing in the area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to unmute Clarence. Clarence, if you could unmute yourself and try again. Clarence? Okay, it doesn't appear that that's working. We have Sergey. Sergey, you are unmuted. Okay, that doesn't appear to be working either. That is all that we have to speak right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So at this point, we'll ask the applicant if they want to come back up or present for 5 minutes to respond to anything that they heard.
The chipmunks have taken over.
Would the applicant like to come back up for another 5 minutes?
Yes, just a few comments. We did work with the staff and councilperson's office trying to address neighbors' concerns. So we did go through that process. This project was submitted almost 3 years ago in August, and so we spent a lot of time working on it, working with staff, and hope that we could get a positive reaction this evening. The project meets the general plan requirements in terms of density, in terms of height. In parking, like I said, we are overparked. So we would, another thing I'd like to mention is that this is a condominium project. It's a for sale project, not an apartment project. So that definitely is a positive. So we'd appreciate your support this evening and approve this project. Thank you.
I actually have a question for the applicant. Can you talk a little bit? You just mentioned the housing type, that it's going to be a condo and not apartments. Can you talk a little bit about the affordability component?
Right now, it's all scheduled as market rate. There's a market rate project.
Great, thanks. Let me just check and see if my fellow commissioners have any questions. I'm not seeing any of the applicant, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Motion, we close the public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Bonilla. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, a motion and second. And anyone opposed to that motion or abstaining? Not seeing any. Motion carries. So let's go ahead and open it up to, let's see, staff. Does staff want to respond to anything?
Staff doesn't really have much to respond other than we understand the neighborhood character, but given that it's adjacent to the urban village and does have a higher dense general plan designation, the staff did understand what the applicant was doing, which is basically reducing the setback adjacent to the residential use while allowing the higher density to conform to the general plan. Just also note that this is only a PD zoning, so the projects that he's talked about is only a conceptual design. They would still need to conform to the development standards and a future PD permit application.
All righty. So it looks like I have one hand raised by my fellow Commissioner Yesney.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Tu, do you think there's any possibility when the design comes in that it won't have a flat roof? It couldn't be any flatter than what the conceptual design showed, so.
I think we can all always guess what Commissioner Yesney's question is going to be.
I think there's always a balance in trying to give them additional height to build additional units, as well as the community's concern for overall heights. But there is a chance because they were not approving the PD permit today. So I would say there's still a chance.
The residential design guidelines, the citywide design guidelines, we're going to try and deal with some of the issues of San Jose having no skyline whatsoever, but it doesn't seem to be working, and the Planning Commission never deals with those issues. So I just wanted to express my disappointment that I haven't seen any improvement or very little improvement other than downtown in San Jose continuing to be a city of flat tops. So that said, I'll move the staff recommendation.
There's a motion by Commissioner Yesney to move the staff recommendation. Second.
I'll second it.
All right, second by Commissioner Bonilla. Sorry, I muted myself there for a second. Commissioner Yesney, would you like to speak to your motion?
Only that I do like to see higher density for sales housing being proposed in San Jose in a variety of locations, especially in the West Valley where we don't see a lot of density going in. It adds to the housing available because it's a housing type that does appeal to very young families. And that's about all I had to say.
Commissioner Bonilla, would you like to speak to a second?
I will pass. Thank you.
All right, I am not seeing any hands. Wait, let me see here. I am not seeing any other hands from my fellow commissioners, so I'm going to go ahead and call on myself. I actually did have some questions for staff. Can you just comment real briefly about the kind of the other development activity in the area? There's reference to a hotel and some of the public comment, well, the correspondence, written correspondence talked about the cumulative impacts of the area. Can you just put this in context of what else is going on in this area?
So as I stated earlier, it is in an urban village where currently I believe there was a hotel that was previously approved, two hotels, one that's right adjacent to it and another one that was a couple blocks away, given there was a demand for, was and is a demand for hotels. So I believe depending on the timing and when these applications came in, whether it was in the background, the environmental was whether or not they consider it. But regardless of that component of it, every project still has to deal with the operational analysis of the project. I don't know if Manjeet is here from Public Works still here to discuss on the specific part of it, but I think the majority of the concern was really about other developments nearby and their traffic concerns.
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Provenzano with Public Works. I started the traffic analysis on this, so I'll go ahead and speak to some of the studies that were done at the time this application came in. This application came in before the hotel, so as it relates to the timeline, the hotel would show this project in its background, as opposed to this background or this project being in the background of the hotel. At the time that this application came in, the project was under our City Council Policy 5-3, so we did an LOS, a level of service analysis under this one, which was standards, our policy at the time, even though our VMT policy has superseded it. At the time that the analysis was done, we did do a traffic count down Bark Lane. So the addition of this project would be a 20% increase of traffic on that street. To put it into some context of the numbers, Bark Lane being a residential street is within our guidelines that they can carry approximately 2,000 vehicles a day. And with the addition of this project going in, our vehicles per day would be upwards of about 1,500. So the capacity on the street is there, as attested to. It is a very quiet neighborhood street, and the traffic does represent that. Obviously, the hotel going in adjacent to the site, which is closer to the Deanza Boulevard frontage, will add some additional traffic at that neck of Bark Lane and Deanza, but we do not anticipate that traffic to necessarily be a spillover into the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And then one final question, and that is I asked the applicant about any affordability components of this. Sounds like it's market rate condos. Staff comment on, I mean, I would imagine there's going to be a fee pulled out for affordable housing, but are there any other opportunities to get affordable housing incorporated on site in this area? And the reason I ask is, so I actually grew up just 2 blocks over. And so I'm fairly familiar with the area, and I grew up in rent-controlled townhomes in what you guys know is one of the best school districts, maybe in the nation, maybe in the world. And so as a youngster of a single mom struggling to get by, I had because there was affordable housing in this affluent community, I had the benefit of going to this world-class school. And that's just an incredibly powerful strategy in making sure that folks are being able to have access to quality education. And we do two things, right? We try to improve schools in poorer areas, and we try to put affordable housing in richer areas. And this is one of those richer areas where putting affordable housing and giving access to high quality schools could be transformative and it was transformative for someone like me. So that's my take part, and why I'm asking about being able to put affordable housing on this site.
So to answer your question, given that it's not a specific PD permit already on file, it's still subject to the affordable housing provisions of the city. So depending on how the PD permit comes in, and though he can say it's a condo unit now, which would be subject to certain types of affordable housing and impact fees and other aspects, it can also still be a condo project that is still for rent. So as those details get flushed out in the PD permit, and as they do a affordable housing agreement with the housing departments, I think that's something that, at least hearing from you, the applicant should be considering, and that would be implemented through the actual agreement through the housing department as part of the PD permit.
Thank you. Yep. And I just wanted to say it.
Thanks, and I acknowledge it.
Okay, I am not seeing any hands by my fellow commissioners, so we'll go ahead and vote on the motion, and I'll go by roll call. Commissioner Bonilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Yesny,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio, and myself, I am an aye. So motion passes unanimously. And so we will go ahead and move on to the next item, which is, sorry, lost my place here. Okay, referrals from City Council. And there are no items under item 6. So we go on to item 7, go to welfare. Is there a report from City Council from staff?
Yes, there is. Since our last meeting on May 27th, there has been about 4 City Council meetings. From June 2nd to June 9th, June 16th, and June 23rd. So I'll go through them, beginning with yesterday's council meeting, and then ending with the last one. So yesterday, the approvals were amendments to master agreement for Urban Village Master Plan and other projects to implement and Vision San Jose 2040 General Plan. That was approved. Request authorization to apply for the local early action planning grants program. That was also approved. Conforming rezoning and conditional use permit for the DoubleTree Hotel located at 2050 Gateway Place. That was also approved. And planned development rezoning and planned development permit for real property located on the west side of Meridian Avenue. That's the Meridian Avenue Residential Mixed Use Development Project. That was approved. On June 16th, the approvals are the following. Economic recovery temporary cap on new or increased infrastructure fee for development. That was approved. Historic city landmark designation for 170 Park Center Plaza. That was denied. So the approval was to deny the historic designation of former Bank of California as a city landmark. It was denied, and then the City View Plaza project was approved. There were 2 items. So the designation was denied, and then the project itself was approved. June 9th, the item of interest to the commission is the actions related to the design and construction of the Shackle Avenue extension from Paragon Drive to Oakland Road and I-880 overcrossing projects. That's a traffic improvement project. It was approved. Last but not the least is June 2nd, and there was only 1 item. It has to do with amendments to the Planning Commission composition ordinance. The recommendation was to approve an ordinance amending section 2.08.4000 of chapter 2.08 of title 2 of the San Jose Municipal Code to limit the number of members of the Planning Commission who reside in the same council district to 1, and also to direct staff to expand outreach to include outreach to people on other city commissions and boards, as well as the general public. That's it.
Thank you. That was a lot. All right. So moving on then to 7B, review and approve action minutes from 5/27/20. Is there a motion from one of my fellow commissioners to approve the action minutes?
I'll move approval. This is Commissioner Allen.
Motion by Commissioner Allen. Is there a second?
I think that cat seconded it in the background.
That's Butter. Second by Butter. or Commissioner Oliverio. So we have a motion and a second to accept and approve the action minutes. And I will go ahead and do a roll call. Commissioner Bonilla.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Yesny.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. So motion passes. So moving on to item 7C, election of chair and vice chair for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. And before we open this up for nominations, I wanted to just comment on the letter that I submitted in the link in the agenda, and just highlight some of what I said, and that being that I personally believe that Commissioner Caballero is one of the smartest people on this commission and does her homework. Her values are in the right place. And I think she would make a wonderful chair. I also think, and you guys know this because there was a bunch of hullabaloo about this a while ago. But in particular, at this point in time, it is really, really important for us to all be super mindful of who we intentionally and sometimes unintentionally, because we're just not aware of how racism, sexism, patriarchy, white supremacy manifests itself. That it is really important to be advancing women of color. And so I would just wanted to reiterate some of what my letter laid out. I also wanted to highlight over the past 15 chairs that I could remember, only 2 have been women of color. And so it's not by accident. It's just, this is how patriarchy and white supremacy play out in our society. So those are my comments, and I see a hand up by Commissioner Bonilla. So Commissioner Bonilla.
Chairwoman Ballard, I think your letter and this segue is perfect. I'd like to nominate Mariel Caballero to be chairwoman of our commission. I think often we're told as planning commissioners that we cannot change policy, but what we can do is lead in terms of the changing of perceptions and lead in terms of making it very clear to every single resident in this city that they have a place at this table and that they are a part of the city and that they are not just welcome, but valued. I think in selecting Commissioner Caballero, I want to just say this. My 8-year-old daughter is watching tonight. And one of the reasons why I'm making this nomination is I'd like for her to one day be a leader, and I'd like for her to one day grow with her brothers to be members of this city that are succeeding and growing and bringing others along. And I think Commissioner Caballero exemplifies a lot of those qualities. Hard worker. We got to know each other on the loosely here campaign trail. Always cordial, smart, and I think she represents a lot of what we need right now in this city, particularly as we're going through a time of great division. This isn't in any way a knock on anyone, but this is recognition that where we are today is an amazing opportunity to do what I've always thought was important from the time I announced I wanted to be a planning commissioner, to ensure that every part of this city feels represented. And I think Commissioner Caballero, you'd be the right person to take the helm for the San Jose Planning Commission, and it is my honor to nominate you.
Great. And is there a second on that motion?
Chair Ballard, if I may speak, this is Vera Todorov.
Yes, go ahead.
Commissioner Caballero is up for reappointment. This is technically her last meeting of the year. And unless reappointed, she could not be in the position of chair of the commission. So any motion should be conditional upon her reappointment. Or in the alternative, the commission may also vote to continue this item for one meeting until we have a constituted commission, knowing whether or not, she is reappointed, for example.
So Vera, can I ask a question? What would be the problem with, in the very unlikely chance that Commissioner Caballero does not get reappointed, that the Planning Commission could just go through this again?
You could go through it again. Technically, perhaps the vice chair would end up being the chair at that point. But yes, you could go through this, but I would have to look. But normally the vice chair would take the place of the chair. But you could appoint a new chair. Yes.
Yeah, so I think, I'm happy with that risk, unless Commissioner Bonilla would like to amend his motion and say, if by chance Commissioner Caballero does not get reappointed, then or condition it. But I guess I'm okay with.
I would advise that you condition her appointment as chair, conditioned upon her reappointment to the commission.
So then may I alter my motion then?
Please, thank you.
Sure. No, thank you. I will, and Vera, you may have to help me with the wording here. I move to recommend that Commissioner Caballero be made chairwoman of the Planning Commission, contingent on her reappointment.
Yeah, that's fine. And you're not recommending it. That's her motion. Your motion is that she be made chair contingent upon her reappointment to the commission. Right?
My apologies. Once a staffer, always
no
a
worries.
staffer.
No worries. I understand. I understand.
And is there a second on that motion? I see Commissioner Yesney's hand up.
I'd like to ask Commissioner Caballero if she accepts the nomination for obvious reasons.
Good idea.
Chair, if I could.
Yes.
I do accept the nomination. I thank you very much for both what Commissioner Chair Ballard and Commissioner Bonilla said. I look forward to the opportunity to potentially serve as chair. I think that it is important to have people of color chairing some of our most important commissions, not just because they're people of color, but because they're well qualified to do so. I think that my years of experience in government, but also in chairing various meetings will enable me to do so with the support of staff, and I'd be very, very happy to accept the nomination. Thank you very much.
In that case, I'll second the motion.
All right. We have a motion to nominate Commissioner Caballero to chair, contingent upon her reappointment, seconded by Commissioner Yesney. With that, I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. So,
comment, Chair?
Bonilla. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, at our last meeting, we discussed that we would be appointing chair and vice chair with the new planning commission.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? You were cutting out at first.
Yeah, so at our last time we had this discussion, we said that we would be appointing the chair and vice chair. The new planning commission is, so that's different than what we had agreed upon prior. That's obviously going to be potentially several new commissioners, maybe even a majority of new commissioners, and a variety of people from other council districts, etc. So that's, we discussed last time, allowing that commission the right to appoint.
I'm not sure if I understand. Maybe staff, you can chime in, because this is on the agenda for us to do today, and that's what we're doing.
I believe he is, if I understood him correctly, he's indicating that we will be voting for chair and vice chair.
Yes, but I think he's saying that we should be doing that after the new commission is seated.
That's correct. That's what we discussed at the last planning commission meeting, that we would do that upon the new planning commission effective in July would make that decision on who their chair would be. And so that's all I'm saying, is this altering from what we decided upon in the last discussion.
Well, there is a motion and a second on the floor based on what is on the agenda. Staff, would you like to chime in on anything? Otherwise, I'm going to go with a roll call vote.
I have no comments. Vera, do you?
I was looking through the minutes to see if I had any notes on that, but I was unable to find them, only because I've got a bunch of paper minutes now, since, I don't know if staff who took the minutes can tell us, but one comment I do have is that there are 5 commissioners up for reappointment. And so we don't know how many the council is going to appoint as the result of the interviews next week. It may be 1 commissioner, it may be no commissioners, it could be all 5 or anything in between. You will need to have at least 1 commission member appointed in order to be able to continue business. Otherwise, you will not have a quorum of the commission. So I don't know how long it will take for council to appoint all 5 seats. In the past, they've taken more time than just 1 or 2 meetings.
Thank you, Vera. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I have nothing more to say.
So I'm going to go ahead and, since this was on the agenda, and we have a motion and a second on the floor, I'm going to call for a roll call vote. And it's starting with Commissioner Bonilla.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Yasny.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
Great. So now let's go on to the election of vice chair. And
I apologize, Chairperson. I'm attempting to hear all the votes, and I've had a little bit of trouble. I had trouble hearing Commissioner Oliverio's vote on that one.
That was an aye, affirmative, yes.
Thank you very much.
And so going to the nomination of vice chair, and I see some hands up here. Commissioner Bonilla, did you want to make a comment, or is that a leftover?
Oh, no, that was a leftover.
Madam Chair, I believe you didn't vote.
Oh, I'm an aye. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
And I see Commissioner Caballero raising her hand. So Commissioner Caballero.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Commissioner Bonilla as vice chair. I think that given what we are experiencing in our nation and as our country, we need to take this opportunity to show the residents of San Jose that every voice matters and every voice is important to this commission. And I think one way to do that is to ensure that we have good representation at the leadership level. I think Commissioner Bonilla has shown that he very well understands all of the issues that come before us, that he cares very much about what happens to our city, not just in his district, but across the city. And I think he'd be a great vice chair. So I'd like to nominate him.
Great. There's a motion on the floor, and in the same spirit that Commissioner Yasny asked the question, perhaps we should make sure that Commissioner Bonilla is okay with being nominated for vice chair.
I am. Thank you for that nomination, Mariel.
Great. And is there a second on the motion? Well, as chair, I'm going to second the motion. And I saw Commissioner Yasny come unmuted there for a second, but let's go ahead and Commissioner Yasny, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I was going to second the motion.
All right.
So I was a little slow with my button.
We've got 2 seconds on the motion. So if there's no other discussion on the motion, I do see Vera's hand up. Vera, did you want to comment on anything, or is that leftover?
No, it's a leftover. I'm sorry.
No problems. I'm very accustomed to leftover hands up. All right. So then, if there's no further discussion, I'm going to go ahead with the roll call vote. Commissioner Bonilla.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Yasny.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
And I will be an aye as well. So motion passes. Congratulations to both of our new leaders, contingent upon Mariel being reappointed, which I certainly hope that she is. So with that, we will go on to item 7D, and that is subcommittee formation reports and outstanding business. Anything from staff?
It's a study session scheduled for July 8th and July 22nd for the San Jose Citywide Design Standards and Guidelines.
That sounds fun. I think maybe Commissioner Yasny will be there to talk about flat roofs.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I will not be a member of this commission by the time that study session occurs.
But
I
you
have,
can still,
I have not reapplied, so
you can
this,
still tune in.
yep, this is my last meeting.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt someone?
I just said Commissioner Yesney will be missed. I really appreciated her background of being on a professional planning staff and her ability to recognize density is compatible with our future. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Agreed, and I'll piggyback on what Commissioner Oliverio said there. He said that he appreciates your background in terms of your expertise, but I also appreciate your physical background of your birds there.
Big budgies.
Anyway, so moving on to item 7F. Anything for the public record?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
If I could be recognized, thank you so much. I want to recognize, since many of us may not be rejoining the commission next month, I really want to take an opportunity, and that includes me, to thank Commissioner Yesney. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to recognize you at a future planning commission meeting, and if I'm not on the commission, I will certainly be zooming into that because I have learned so much from you, not just in terms of your knowledge base around city planning issues, but also just the way you approach every issue and the thoughtfulness you bring to it. I really, really do appreciate having had the opportunity to serve next to you. And to all my fellow commissioners, Chair Ballard especially, since you will not be seeking a spot on the commission again, I just want to thank you as well for many of the same reasons. You bring an unbridled passion to this role that I think is incredibly important. And it's really valuable in terms of a chair, but in terms of a commissioner, not on the planning commission, but on every commission and in every board we have in this city. I think it's fantastic to see on this commission, especially, so many just amazing people stepping up to serve. And I really hope that that continues, no matter who's appointed and next week and who's joining you guys next week or next month. I'm sure they're going to be just fantastic and do a great job. And to my continuing commissioners, to our new chair and vice chair, congratulations. And I look forward to either serving with you or watching from afar as you do tremendous things for our city. So thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
And Commissioner Caballero has her hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to take this opportunity, similar to Commissioner Allen, to say thank you to both Chair Ballard. I've learned so much from you. Even from before I joined the Planning Commission, I promised to continue fighting the good fight for bikes and all things related to great transit and pedestrian safety. And to Commissioner Yesney, you have been a wealth of information, and just really appreciated all of your comments, and also very much appreciate your always looking out to make sure that San Jose is as beautiful as possible and as visually interesting. So not only the technical skill and just the vast institutional knowledge that you bring to everything, but just also your ability to ensure that like every project looks as good as it possibly could. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I see Commissioner Bonilla has his hand up. Is that leftover, or would you like to comment?
No, I'd like to comment. In many ways, I think to all of you that may not be coming back or are not coming back, in the case of Commissioner Yesney and Chairwoman Ballard, I just want to say that serving on this commission for me so far with all of you has given me a lot of hope and optimism about the future of our city. We may disagree on issues, we may disagree on points of view, but we come together and we have thoughtful discussion and we learn from each other. I will honestly say I have learned from every single one of you, and I look forward to these conversations because I know that your passion and your commitment to the city, as well as your intellectual depth and understanding of these issues, make it so that I'm always learning, always growing. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is everything that's right with San Jose, and this is what's eventually going to overcome everything that is wrong with San Jose. So it's been an honor to serve with you all. I look forward to working together, whether at this level or in community service. The city is fortunate to have you serving.
Thank you. And I'll just chime in, similar to what Commissioner Allen was saying, since I'm rescinding my application for a seat on the commission. It really has been great. I submitted an application 5 years ago when I had a career change from affordable housing and land use advocacy into transportation, in part because I didn't want to not use all of that 14 years of experience in land use that I had stacked up. And so it's just been really fun to keep a toe in all the land use and housing stuff. And it's been great working with all of you, and I've learned an incredible deal from all of you. And also, I just want to thank the staff. They're wonderful. They work hard. We give them a hard time sometimes. We're not super polite all the time, and they put up with all of us, and they still call us things like, Chair Ballard, and they treat me with a whole lot of respect. So anyway, it's been great, and I think all of us will still be around, contributing in the ways that we contribute. And other than that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thanks all.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.